Marketing is the twin of your business idea. It has the same heartbeat, it has the same rhythm. And if you don't develop marketing with your business, it's kind of you can't really separate the two.
This episode is brought to you by Warmly. Warmly is an AI-powered GTM assistant that helps your outbound team stop wasting time and start targeting the right people at the right time. Here's the play. Your SDRs open LinkedIn, and instead of cold scrolling, they get real-time signals like who is researching solutions like yours, who just switched jobs, or who recently viewed your site. No CRM updates, no lead lists, just useful context surfaced where they already work. If you're doing outbound in 2025 and not using Warmly, you are behind. Try it for free at www.warmly.ai. In this episode of the GTM Engineering Podcast, I talked to Tamara Ceman, interim and fractional CMO and the creator of The Practical Marketer. Tamara and I went deep on one of the most frustrating dynamics in SaaS, the distrust between founders and marketers. She unpacked the root causes of this tension, from misaligned expectations to bad early hires and surface-level tactics. One line stuck with me: marketing is still eating at the kids' table. Tamara didn't just complain though. She owned marketing's part in the problem and laid out what better looks like. We also explored her favorite kind of growth experiment, the unsexy ones. She shared a quiet 40% lift in activation from changing the sign-up flow, and why the winning variant was not the shortest, but the one with just enough friction to build trust. If you've ever been pushed to chase top of the funnel volume while ignoring what happens post sign-up, you'll want to hear this. We closed with Tamara's take on today's trendless market and why marketers need to get fluent in data fast. Here's my conversation with Tamara. Hey Tamara, welcome.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me.
So before we jump in to the questions I have, and I was explaining the format before we start with the recording. But then at some point during our conversation, you mentioned something about your LinkedIn profile image. And I remember myself wondering, why is he using this image? Like, why, is there something that I should know as a marketer? And I think that's a great opportunity for me to ask, why do you have this image as your profile image for LinkedIn?
Trust me, I'm getting these questions quite a lot. And I think if you asked me a couple of months ago, I would tell you that it is just an experiment. But right now, I have a confirmation that actually that image does work for me for a couple of different reasons. So there's a little bit of a backstory to this. So my old profile picture that I had up until, I want to say, even last year, September or something like that, was 6 years old or something like that. So it was a very old picture. And I kept looking at it, and I felt that it didn't feel like me. I look at it and it's a person from 5 years ago. I'm very different now. My knowledge is different. My hair is different. So, well, almost different. But I kind of felt that it wasn't representing who I am. And since I'm now in the phase of developing my personal brand, I kind of realized that I got locked into a visual presentation that is no longer aligned with who I am. So the first step was kind of playing with it. I was just very playful and experimental. And I was like, okay, so how can I make this fun for me in the process? So I actually posted a series of alternative profile pictures that were all kind of parodies of my existing picture. Some had doodles, some were kind of like alien doodles that you kind of see right now. Some were kind of blurred images. One was me in the distance floating in water. So it was silly. It was pure silliness at that time. But something happened and people started resonating with it. I got messages, I got a lot of interactions on my content, and people were like, if you do this for real, I just want to know how it plays out. So it turned into an accidental experiment out of just pure curiosity. And I had a winner that was just me in a doodle, and that kind of transitioned into the yellow background and just floating alien head. Um, And weirdly enough, I look at that very strange image and I feel that I have never been closer to my true self on LinkedIn because that's who I exactly am. I am loud and, colorful, and I'm a loud laugher, and I love to joke. I love comedy of life, if you will. And that picture really does set the tone for whoever wants to work with me. But at the same time, I was worried how this is going to be accepted by the world because, it's a very strange image. It's not like something you encounter every day. So I was aware in the beginning that people are either going to love it or hate it. But I've been receiving really positive commentary about that. People are starting to connect with me or follow me just because of the profile image. And then I got a message recently that I absolutely loved. He said, "I came for your profile picture stayed for the content." So I realized one thing: that picture grabs attention, right? And I'm very happy. I was kind of pushed into. I was talked into using it, which is a different story for a different time. But I'm very glad that it happened because I feel that that image, as a part of my personal brand, even though LinkedIn is mostly pretty dumbed down in terms of personal brands, I feel that it matches me and grabs the attention that I do want to have right now. So yeah, it's staying for a while.
The only thing is that you create a problem now to folks who are obsessed with attribution because they want to ask, like, can you attribute pipeline to this profile image? Because if yes, yeah, we are all changing our profile images. Okay, that's interesting. I thought that there is something behind it, so I wanted to ask. I had to ask.
Yeah.
I am.
And I will be able to probably attribute some pipeline to it, like actual numbers in a couple of months. Because I was actually I said, "Okay, I'm putting it up in January. I'm putting it up for a couple of months. Let's see where it goes." And as soon as I changed the profile image, I didn't change much how I show up and interact on LinkedIn other than I actually became a little bit more frequent how I show up. I started receiving inbound interest for services that at the time I wasn't even offering. So I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, there's definitely pipeline attached to
Shit.
this.
Okay. Profile images generate pipeline. Then that's the headline. Okay. So um, let's shift gears a bit. We have three questions for our guests. The first is regarding a problem that you see GTM teams facing, and a solution that may be obvious to you, but may not be as obvious to most folks out there.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um of all of the problems that we are facing right now, I think that one of the biggest ones that I keep experiencing is the inherent distrust of marketing and go-to-market teams in general, in SaaS. And I'm talking specifically for tech and, a little bit tighter in SaaS because that's my world. But I keep seeing this pattern repeated where I go into the conversation and, one person might be very open to uh, having a marketer share opinions on certain things, but a lot of the time you do face a wall and you face a closed door and the dialogue is cut off because the inherent distrust just it kind of anchors this feeling of you're a marketer, you don't know anything. And I think that over time, I started wondering, like, why that is. At first, I had, like, this very nasty feeling, and I was wrong, by the way. I'm going to say it outright. I was wrong about this. But my first feeling was all of the founders are very naive in thinking that all marketing is, can I swear on the podcast?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
And we can just we can cut it out for YouTube, not to kill
Beep.
kill that.
Yeah. So, yeah, all of the founders I thought just thought inherently like, yeah, marketing is shit. They don't know anything. They're just here to generate pipeline, to make a deck pretty, to run ads, to post on social. And I felt that for a very long time until I realized that a lot of the fault falls on us as the marketing and go-to-market community. It falls on us as service providers, it falls on us as agency owners, it all falls on us as leaders in the company because how we show up and what experience we create for people who are coming into the business, not necessarily from a business background, mind you. That's very specific for tech and SaaS. People are coming into this world without proper business training. They don't know what marketing should be on paper, so their knowledge and their reality is forged out of their experiences. And unfortunately, a lot of early stage founders have crappy experiences with marketers because they're going to hire junior because they don't know any better. The junior is not going to know how to do things because there's no base of marketing created, right? All of the research and the messaging, etc. It's not going to be done by a junior, or they're going to hire an agency, and if they go to an agency that's running email marketing, they're going to convince them that they need email marketing even if they are not ready for it. Because for them it's generate the pipeline. For startup it's a failed project that they just sunk money into. So you have these series of bad experiences that created this very strong image that marketing is a sham and it's a surface level tactic. And what they fail to understand, what big companies know, mind you, all of the big tech companies have a marketer sitting very, very tightly with the CEO, and not just because of the title, the C title. No, marketing is the twin of your business idea. It has the same heartbeat, it has the same rhythm. And if you don't develop marketing with your business, it's kind of it, you can't really separate the two. It starts scrambling after a while. And a lot of these early stage startup folks, they kind of come in, have a wave of bad experiences and create this image that, nah, I don't need this and I actually don't want to hear anything you have to say. So, especially marketers, we're kind of going into this being like, but we actually do know about product. We actually do know about pricing. You can't imagine how many times I heard from people, but I actually experienced it myself, that marketing is not a part of the go to market motion. And it's just like, "Oh, yeah, it's sales and account management, go to market." Like, it has the word market in it. How the hell is is marketing not a part of it, you
Yeah, it sounds like they have a distorted view over like what
Yeah.
marketing and what go to market is like,
Yes. Yes.
but it sounds to me what you're describing, like as I was hearing your answer, is that marketing is not good at like doing marketing for like advocating essentially, or communicating properly what marketing is and what it should be doing. That's why I also saw this discussion a couple of months ago around Pavilion, and how there was a user or customer who canceled apparently, and they were frustrated because Pavilion is pushing like a somewhat like distorted image or view over what marketing is, and like
Oh, really?
tying this with revenue. And but I'm like, I understand the sentiment of that post, but as I posted as a like response to that, was that Pavilion is not like, I don't think that they are doing anything different than like mirroring the
Mhm.
boots on the ground and like the sentiment that's out there. What I'm trying to say is that um, the situation and the environment pushed marketing to that, like
Yeah.
to that transformation of the role into, looking more like revenue operations, or a stand for sales to hit their quotas, than
Mhm.
what marketing is supposed to be. Um,
100%.
Yeah.
100% agreed. I think that you have all of the you have the core reasons that this is happening that are, deep and unique for every single individual out there. But the common symptoms are that you have that distrust, misunderstanding, and putting marketing in a box that it shouldn't be at. There's a running joke in the marketing world that marketing is still eating at the kids' table, right? When it comes to SaaS. And it's just pure wrong. Companies are leaving money on the table because the marketing is not put in the right place. It's kind of having these very complex machines. Companies are very complex, beautiful thinking machines. Um, I'm talking about AI, just companies, and you're kind of taking one part that should be a cog that drives the wheels forward, and you're actually putting it on the windows automation going up and down, and that's it. You are limiting where marketing can make the biggest impact, and you're putting it into a very funneled place where it probably can contribute 5% of what it should be doing. And then that symptom becomes even bigger, right? The distrust becomes even bigger because you're like, yeah, I told you that it's not going to work. So marketing keeps getting dealt a bad hand, and not just marketing. Other go to market functions are being dealt a very bad hand too. So I think that it's a shared blame. And what you shared about Pavilion, I do think that there's um just very, very unfortunate amplifications of this inner voice that's happening. And I don't know enough about Pavilion because I actually decided not to join. Like I was this close, but then
Yeah, I'm
I
not
kind
any
of
members either.
understood.
I haven't.
Yeah, I kind of read some through some of their content, and I felt like it's not the great place for me. So I feel that unfortunately when these big organizations that do have a lot of senior eyes on them amplify something that is damaging to the entire industry, to be quite honest. They're doing everybody a disservice in this case, the business owners themselves, because, us marketers are now looking into them and going like, huh, do you know what marketing is? And especially us marketers, because we are now stuck in a little box that we shouldn't be in.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Next question I have for you. I would do the growth experiment or the tactic first, and then we can leave the trend for the end. So, um, have you run any experiments in any of the leadership roles you had in the past, or tactics? It could be strategies that are like worth discussing and like sharing with people, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've run plenty. I think experiments are kind of my signature move. As I told you earlier, I do believe that marketers should be wrong 80% of the time, and if they're not experimenting enough. And it's kind of funny, because I was told recently that what I do is not marketing. It made me giggle because they now associate actual proper marketing with what growth teams are working in some doing or in some SaaS. Um, but I do a lot of experiments. The type of experiments that I do, just for context, have to do with the entire life cycle because that's where I create the biggest impact. So it's not just the tactic to get more users or get more sales calls or whatever that surface level KPI will be, but actually understand what's happening within the platform, because it doesn't matter if we fill the pipeline if pipeline is going to be shit. So we need to understand who's activating, which channel is performing well, but for that, the interior of the invisible part of marketing, or less visible part of marketing, needs to function first. So my favorite experiments that don't have a big flashy number behind them are usually the incremental improvements within the platform itself, whether it's cutting the sign up process shorter and actually moving the additional information collection to a different place. These experiments have proved to be the most important, because even though the numbers are not going to be like, oh yeah, we improved the signups 150%, nothing like that. We actually contributed to clearer data down the line, which makes us make better decisions about which channel to experiment next. So it was pivotal. One of my favorite experiments was exactly what I mentioned. It was collaboration with the product team. So that's where your marketing contributes the best or has the best impact, when they sit very closely with product and engineering and are able to do these kind of experiments. And one of the experiments was cutting down the sign up process from multiple steps and multiple fields to actually just having the bare bones, and lowering the number of clicks that people go through. And we actually found that the sweet spot was having 2 screens and 3 fields in our case. That doesn't mean that it's going to be, the same for everybody. But we when we tried originally, we had, like, a big, sign-up process. Like, we would ask, like, "What industry are you in?" Or, we would ask all of this additional information that we imagined that we are going to create some automation around in the future. And until we realized that actually that's one of the huge reasons why people um, get to the aha moments within the platform faster. Like, it's not one moment, but it's a series of moments. And it's preventing you because you get tired mentally answering these questions because you just want to go in and do something within the platform.
Yeah.
The so we had the control version, right? So that was the control version of the experiment, is what we already had. So the next step for us is to figure out, okay, so what would be the two test versions that we want to run next to the controlled version? And the two test versions was, one was the medium length, where we still kept one or two questions that we had from the original mini survey at the beginning. And one was where we actually had, like, the bare bones login, just type in and you were within the platform. And for some very interesting reason, which we cannot pin down to one specific thing, the one that was the bare bones one, where you just literally added email, clicked, and you were in the platform, actually performed slightly less than the one that actually asked you for one additional piece of information. And we theorize why this is, right? You can never really pin pinpoint, like, the human behavior that actually triggered this change, but the difference was drastic enough that we felt like, okay, this is definitely performing better in a margin that is telling us that we can get more people into the platform. And the process, the percentage of completion from people who hit the sign up page to actually getting into the product and then activating within the product rose for around 40%, which was completely insane to us. It was uh, um, a massive number. Nobody expected this, so it didn't necessarily impact the number of people that we got into the platform, but it increased the number of people that got activated, which is more important in my world.
Could I guess, could I say that the reason why having just the email field performed worse was because maybe it made people think that, you know what, this is not a safe product. Like all I'm giving is my email. It doesn't look like, not sketchy, but like borderline. Should I give my email? Because they should be asking. I'm used to giving more information. Like,
Yeah.
why do they ask just for my email?
Yep. I think you're 100% on something there. That was definitely one of our theories, is just that it feels too good to be true. And there's also this entire theory of positive friction, especially within PLG and self-service motion. when people feel that they had to give a little bit more effort to get from point A to point B. There's a fine scale in what dosage that effort actually contributes to better activation, because they feel that they have vested interest and sunk cost, and they feel like, okay, I've gotten this far, now I need to complete it, or I've gotten this far and now I need to
Invested.
test around. Yeah, exactly. And it's a very fine scale because, in our case it was two fields difference, like that was it, between the one that was crappy performing, now in hindsight, there was a crappy performing original version that ended up being our control, and the version that actually won. So it's a such slight little thing, but that experiment was, and that's why that experiment was one of my favorites, because of how slight improvement that was.
I think that going back to what you mentioned about like activating users is also something many people are missing.
Oh
I
yeah.
had a discussion at the Sastanak event, like which I like described the experience earlier, and one of the folks saying, I can't remember exactly the data or the numbers, the uplift, but they were saying that we get thousands of signups per month, somewhere around 20,000, and we are not doing anything. And then they were like, we need to start doing outbound to these folks. And I thought that I thought about that, and I was like, I mean, you have obviously these folks, they signed up, so you have their email, so yeah,
Mhm.
like you can do something with them. But then I thought that, yeah, this is a form of outbound if you think about it, because like the fact that they signed up may not mean much unless you reach out and see how you can like activate them and make them come back, right? Uh, and that's just a small example about like uh, how much value there can be in the things you, because we are all so obsessed with like improving the acquisition growth loop and like
Oh yeah.
improving the metrics and like, but man, here you have something like you have so many signups. Can you do something with these signups? Like that
Yeah.
should be your starting point, and not like
Yeah.
bringing even more signups. That I don't know what
Exactly.
your thoughts are, but yeah.
Oh, I had so many good conversations on this and some screaming matches too, but I think that, and I'm going to say this because it is actually relevant to the point that I was trying to make earlier, that the mistrust of marketers are also partially to blame. I think that marketers nowadays, if you're in tech specifically, like I can't talk about other industries, but if you're in tech, you need to start getting better with data. You need to be data literate. You need to understand what data means and how it impacts your work. And in my case, like I shared it on LinkedIn a while ago. We can share it with this podcast as well. I actually have an entire cheat sheet of data points that you should pay attention to, as well as definitions that are important for example, self-service motion, but it actually applies to everything. And one of the things that I mentioned there is having a glossary, making sure that the teams are using the same terms for the same thing, because it's not always the case. It's very important for reporting. And then the second thing is making sure that you have the right data from the depth of your product in order to make tactical decisions and tactical experiments work. Because if you don't have the core data, what you're doing with the tactics is just filling a very leaky bucket. And it's not necessarily going to create a lift within your product. I can share information that was publicly shared. We discussed it. I actually wrote about this in Kyle Poyer's Growth Unhinged, which was knowing that in-depth in-product data, like activation and retention, actually prevented us from hemorrhaging money, going tactically in a marketing direction that we shouldn't be going. And we were working together at this time, right? So your agency was creating all of this amazing content, and we were creating something very specifically focused on PDFs. And then when we finally had the data that we didn't from the very get-go, because just the product was getting there, they put it in the sprints, and they were very fast retrospectively. But we got data after we were already going full on hard into one direction with promoting these um specific features to a specific audience, just to come to a point that data tells us that this specific group of keywords is performing the worst, because people that are coming into the platform from these couple of channels that are connected to these keywords are activating but not retaining. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm trying the platform, and all of a sudden they're gone. And the reason was very simple. The product was not solving their problem. The end. Like, we had the feature, but it was not solving the problem that they had. So for us in marketing, it was like, okay, full break, stop what you're doing. we need to we need to reassess all of our keywords. And for the product, it was like an aha moment, being like, okay, wait, why isn't it fitting what they need? Like, why aren't we fixing their problems? So it led into, that very beautiful chunk of data there that we started dissecting together, led to brilliant breakthroughs that both saved marketing budgets and focus, and gave product the next step for the focus, or understanding that, hey, you actually need to improve this specific feature beyond what it is right now, or in the near future, or even change direction if we're going to fix the need of the product. So everybody benefits in that situation. It's all because of data, right?
I agree with you. And I had some interesting conversations about data and how they can help. Actually, there was a very interesting talk in the conference by a guy named Matt Lerner, I think, was his name, is his name, and he gave this talk. He used to work at PayPal back when PayPal was like at the beginning, I guess, of its journey, and how fast they grew and whatnot, and how a wrong interpretation of the data
Mhm.
for something very specific led to like millions of lost revenue, right? Because
Mm.
just because people didn't dive deeper, the data was there, they had the data, just they didn't dive deeper to see. And it was a fascinating example of, like, especially in bigger organizations, or when volumes get bigger, like product-led companies with thousands of signups, how easy it is to you have the data, but you don't make the right decisions based on this data, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, okay, so we discussed a
If
problem.
you don't mind me
Yeah,
just
please.
interjecting one thing here, um, a lot of people mistake uh, the the uh, the data indication with the reason, right? So it's kind of like, is it causation or correlation, right? Some data is correlation, so drop in signups can be correlated to um, many different things, but can be caused by something else. So it's kind of, I always have this very funny meme in my head where a seagull sits on an iron what is it, like an iron bar. The bar is bended. The seagull sits in the bended part, and it says it's causation. It's correlation, not causation, right? So the seagull didn't produce
Yeah.
the dip. And within data, it's very easy to mistake the correlation of data to causation of something, or to actually decrease the importance of some things like seasonal trends, right? Seasons have massive impacts on of the numbers, and still every year in December, for some reason, even though we all know that nobody signs up for freaking anything other than the Nutcracker Ballet, um, there's a massive panic within companies saying like, we're not hitting our numbers of signups. Yes, people are out. They have been out since 1 week before Thanksgiving. They're going to be back 2 weeks in January. That's how the world works right now. And I think that really feeds back into the wrong data misinterpretation. And it's really dangerous because if the wrong data, I can tell you a situation, I can't tell you who it was, but we had the wrong piece of information. Like somebody saw like a 300% increase um, in traffic on a specific keyword in our Google Analytics or something very basic, like not connected to our mix panel, etc. So that person reported it back to CEO, mind you, not the marketer. The CEO went crazy and he was like, "We're going all in on this," and wanted everybody to drop everything that they're doing. And the thing is that the 300% increase was from 1 click to 3 clicks or 1 sign up to 3 signups, something ridiculous like that. So, yeah, that entire, those entire 2 weeks that were completely ruined for everybody. Everybody had to drop what they were doing and focus on something came from one person with very unfortunately, close relation with the CEO at the time caused us to actually go running after smoke that was yeah, it was really bad, but it happens, and luckily, it only lasted 2 weeks because I know of situations where these kind of misinterpreted pieces of data can lead to an entire year of sh shift in focus and budget, shifts and juggles that just lead nowhere, and everybody just loses.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Um, okay, so we discussed a problem, we discussed a growth experiment. Um, last uh, last one is a trend that you see and you think people should pay more attention to.
Mhm. That would be so basic if I said AI. I'm not going to do that. Not in a classic way, not in a classic way, I promise. Um, so right now, I think that the most interesting thing about the market right now is that it's actually a trendless market for the first time ever. Um, there are, AI is trending still, but not as a marketing tactic because most marketers that I know, especially in SaaS, we have been kind of using AI for a decade, you know. We used Copy AI, we used Jarvis before it became Jasper. So there's a lot of um AI that has been already a part of our lives for quite a long time, and before these tools that there were other writing tools like Hemingway, etc. Um, so for marketing teams, I feel that there is a little bit of a fatigue talking about AI as a go-to-market trend, but I think that we are for the first time in a trendless market. And I'm not saying it because it has zero trends, but because there are zero trends that are sticking for longer and that are actual trends, right? So usually you have trends that are picking up like founder-led brand. And now you're hearing it a lot if you're in a certain bubble. But if you go out of that tiny bubble, you can actually see a bigger bubble of people talking about how that doesn't work. And then you have the bubble of you know go to market engineering, but it's a tiny bubble, right? It's not the trend. It's not catching up yet. So I see all of these little beautiful flowers starting to bloom, and I do expect us to see some really good impactful trends in the next couple of months. But right now, we are in this very awkward phase where everybody's still getting used to AI existing so prominently in our life and impacting everything that we are using, working on, the way that we go to market. So the trends are emerging slowly. So whoever is the fastest to the right trend is going to be a big winner at the end.
That's a good point. I hope the GTM engineering one lands because we are using it for the podcast, and also the online summit we are doing in September is the GTM engineering conf. So maybe not.
Oh, yeah. I'm betting on it quite a lot because I do think that we're at a point in industry where a lot of the go-to-market functions need a refresh. A lot of marketing functions need a refresh as well. So I think that this is an opportunity to reset how we think about marketing as a part of a bigger engine within the company, right? So I think it's a very good opportunity. So if marketers don't jump on that trend, then we deserve to be not trusted.
That's a great way to close this episode, I guess, and to come full circle based on what we, where we started our conversation from. So, we are marketers. There has to be a call to action. So, where can people find out more about you, or where would you like them to go and get in touch?
Yes, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. Come enjoy my beautiful profile picture. Also, I will be resharing the data cheat sheets in the near future. So if you want to grab it, just come in, connect with me. I am not on LinkedIn to grow an audience. I'm there to grow a community. So just drop me a connection and a little blurb so I don't know that you're not a bot. We can connect and have beautiful conversations. That's it.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tamara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.